Welcome, everybody, and welcome, Dr. Marlee. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to bring you on today to learn about your story because you have a unique niche within chiropractic that I know nothing about for several reasons. Mm-hmm. And I thought it might be great for you to tell that story today. Mm-hmm. But wanted to kind of start at the beginning, not at like your birth.
Yeah.
But
beginning chiropractic journey.
Yeah, when did you decide, or what made you decide that you wanted to be a chiropractor in general?
Yeah, so when I was 14, first I grew up playing soccer all my life. And it was when I was 14 that I was on the verge of quitting soccer because I was in a lot of pain. I struggled a lot with shin splints, and my family is very Western medicine minded, so they threw everything they knew to throw at me. They had me go into PT for a while. They had me trying to tape my shins. They had me taking over-the-counter medications, and everything would kind of help, but eventually my shin splint pain would come back. And when I started high school at 14, I was playing soccer pretty much every day and training every day, and I think just the intensity was really exasperating my shin splint pain. So I had gone to my mom and said, look, nothing is helping. I don't know what else to do. She had taken me to my pediatrician at that beginning of the year, and my pediatrician actually gave me a prescription of ibuprofen, so something stronger than over-the-counter. I think it was like a 600 milligram prescription of ibuprofen to take every single day before soccer at 14 to help with the pain. And, I was thinking, this is the strongest medication I could have. Surely this is going to do it for me. I used it for a couple months before it stopped working. And at that point, it was pretty much done. I was constantly in tears after a game, after practice. It just wasn't fun for me anymore because I was in so much pain. And my mom, who's a physical therapist, she had an employee that was seeing a chiropractor that he recommended that she bring me to. And it was hard for her. She did not want to at all. She didn't see eye to eye with chiropractors, didn't agree with what they did, but because she didn't know what else to do, she brought me to one. Yeah. And this chiropractor was the first person to just look at my body as a whole. I told him what I had going on, but he didn't even look at my shins. He looked at my back and my neck and everything else but my shins. And that was the start for me. It was, first, he didn't give me anything. He didn't make me take anything. He was using everything that my body already had and just allowing my body, showing me how my body could heal itself. And that was what really started my chiropractic journey. That really inspired me to want to heal people in that way too.
Yeah, because it was non-invasive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I've read recently about sports is when I was growing up, I played a variety of sports. We didn't really train all year round.
Yeah.
This was still this time of take salt tablets to prevent dehydration.
Yeah.
But you said something about, soccer every day. I've read recently that the specialization of sports and the fact that kids are starting very, very young and doing one particular sport year round is actually really hard on their joints and their bodies, right? Is there any kind of fact-based things to that in your profession? Or?
Yeah, so to that point, it's very true. I think it's almost becoming normalized to put a kid in one sport and have them thrive in that sport and grow up playing that sport through college and everything. And even though that can be great and beneficial, it's limiting their bodies. And our bodies, at the end of the day, are meant to move, but meant to move in so many different ways that when kids are young, it is the best time to put them in multiple sports and allow their bodies to move in all these different ways. And eventually, have them pick one sport and have them focus in on one sport. But especially because playing sports all year round is becoming more common, and lack of rest, lack of recovery. It's just, our bodies aren't meant to take all of that, for decades on end.
Yeah.
So.
But there is different modalities now, that there wasn't before too, because one of the points to that before we get on to the next part of the subject would be LeBron James, people are always oh, LeBron James. And my argument as a Michael Jordan guy is always that, but it took him 30 years to do what Jordan did in 9.
Yeah.
But then I gotta give some respect to the fact that like the Tom Brady, the LeBron James, they're still performing at a high caliber at their age.
Which is so impressive.
Yeah, and it's because of these different modalities and stuff, right? Like these ice
that's
baths, these other
evolved tremendously over the past few years, and yeah, there are ways to keep their body going at that high level. The average athlete doesn't have access to all those modalities or the ability to utilize all those modalities, but there is power in that, in those athletes excelling for years that I cannot imagine continuing to play a sport, but they're doing it. They're doing it.
Yeah, it used to be like that. Well, retired, like 30 was like
max
capping it, and those were like old for their age. Robert Parrish, I remember being like super old for the NBA. He played on a bunch of teams, but so similar but different to an athlete's body. A woman who is pregnant has different needs than your average person.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have specialized in that area, or what was that turn in your career? Because you decided I want to be a chiropractor.
Yeah.
You went to school, right, at Logan?
Yes. Yep.
Wild guess.
Yeah. So initially I thought I was going to want to work with athletes.
Okay.
I did my undergrad in athletic training, which is working with athletes, and I quickly realized like athletes don't really listen. Like they kind of just want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to rest. They just don't really listen. And so that's when I decided, okay, I did not want to specialize in athletes. So I'm grateful for that experience, because I learned, knowing that I was going to go to chiropractic school, that was not going to be my niche.
Did it take a residency to figure that out, or like just being around them?
Just being around them.
Yeah,
yeah, just spending a lot of time with them. So whenever I got to chiropractic school, I wasn't really sure kind of what I wanted to specialize in. I was very open-minded. I had the opportunity to be a part of my goddaughter's birth in the beginning of my chiropractic school career. And that was my first experience in a birth, and that actually inspired me to become a doula, which is specifically just a support person for pregnant women and birth partners throughout pregnancy and during the birth, just someone who advocates for them, supports them throughout the process. So that was starting my just niche in working with pregnant moms and families. And then I just started to see the correlation between pregnancy and chiropractic care, and how essential that was throughout pregnancy, and the difference that made in moms who received chiropractic care and didn't by the time they got to labor and birth. And so that kind of transitioned me into specializing that with chiropractic specifically too.
Okay. And was there anything during that time, or what you do now, where you have accompaniments to the chiropractic care? Like are other parts essential as far as diet, exercise, these things, right? Because again, I'm far removed from this situation being a man, but I do have children, and so I've experienced pregnancy from the outsider's perspective, but firsthand, and I know that exercise was always something that was key and crucial, and kind of directed by doctors, like, hey, it used to be thought lay on the bed, and sometimes there is bed rest, but how does that correlate into your overall picture? Are you doing it in an all-encompassing way? Yeah,
for sure. There's the component of chiropractic that I bring to the table, but there's also just the educational component that I bring in terms of, diet is super important. Movement and exercise is huge. I think a lot of people forget that birth in itself is like a marathon. I mean, labor is a lot. Whether it's quick or long, like it's just a lot of manpower. It's just a lot of work. So preparing the body for that moment is critical in the prenatal and the pregnancy period, to where you want to make sure, your endurance is up. You want to make sure your body is fueled properly, our muscles are fueled properly, because the way you experience pregnancy and birth has a direct reflection on how your baby is going to feel as well.
Okay. What about breathing? I know is key. How does chiropractic help with or improve breathing techniques, or the ability to breathe through those moments?
Yeah. So when it comes to chiropractic care in pregnancy specifically, yes, we do adjustments, but there's a lot of ligament work that we also do and muscle work that we need to do just because how their hormones are shifting throughout pregnancy and how those muscles get tight and loose, and it's just all of it, how it kind of works together. And when it comes to breathing, sometimes it can become very difficult to breathe if there is tension within those muscles and ligaments that are responsible for breathing, but that are also just responsible for carrying the baby throughout pregnancy. So when it comes to chiropractic care, we are able to just overall help those ligaments and muscles relax the way that they need to. So you're able to essentially take deep breaths and breathe. Not just in labor, but also throughout pregnancy. I know a lot of moms talk about how certain stages of pregnancy, it feels like they can't catch their breath. Like they are constantly out of breath. And a lot of times it's because of just their ligaments being super, super tight.
So you're training those parts of the body to be prepared?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I probably, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I probably fall into the majority of the category, but maybe not. In the thought process of, I never thought outside of bones when I think chiropractic. I don't think of ligaments and muscles.
Yeah.
I'm very narrow-minded when it comes to chiropractic because chiropractic care, because I'd never done it.
Right.
I have a really big fear of being, like, my proximity is a big thing for me. I've never received a massage.
That's honest. A lot of people are just weird about I don't want to be touched. Yeah. I get it. I think chiropractic care is a lot more than what people realize and what the average person thinks it is. I know in terms of what I do, I practice what we call the Gonstead system, and it's very nervous system based.
Okay.
So, not to get too sciencey, but our nerves come out of our spine, and yes, we adjust the spine, but the nerves go to every tissue, organ, and cell in our body. So, yes, a lot of people associate chiropractic care with being pain-based, but I want to know how your body's functioning overall. I want to know how you're sleeping, how your bowel movements are, how your digestive system is, because all of that is telling me, okay, there could be interference in how your nerves are functioning in certain parts of your spine. So we take a very nervous system based approach to chiropractic care. Most people, yes, do come to us when they're in pain, but I tell a lot of people by the time you're in pain, it's actually getting to a point of like you've had this problem going on for a
the
lot
straw that
longer.
broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
is a legitimate phrase, right? Like,
correct.
When you have back pain, it's not because you lifted that box wrong.
Right.
It's because you've been lifting boxes wrong for 15 years, or maybe you got in a car accident 10 years ago.
And it's now just showing up, but it's probably been a problem for decades at that point.
So especially with athletes or pregnant women, would you encourage, and I don't know what HIPAA allows you to say or not say, I don't think there's anything about that, right? Like, would you encourage, before you feel pain, come in?
Oh, absolutely.
And let's get you prepared so you don't feel pain.
Yeah. I mean, to me, chiropractic is one of the number one proactive forms of health you can do for yourself. And I think as a society, we just are so go, and like constantly doing things, constantly busy, that we forget to even do anything prior to getting to the point of pain. It's actually more work to get them out of pain than it is if you're just coming to me to see, hey, I just want to get my nervous system checked, my spine checked. I just want to make sure everything looks good, kind of thing. And I think of it similar to, like, when we go to a dentist, we go for cleanings every, 6 months. And you may not be going in because your teeth hurt or you have a cavity, but you're going in to prevent that, right? You want to catch it beforehand. So chiropractic to me is the exact same thing. Like, we want to catch anything before things become a problem.
That's a good point. I think dentistry might be the only commonplace, like, care routine and system that's just
preventative
and widely accepted as such. Right. Like, I know blood work's becoming a thing now. Like, more people are doing blood work preemptively. But chiropractic really should be essential when you think about it, because how many people are falling or breaking hips or doing all these different things as they age, and there's no preventative steps being taken other than, like, if you work out or jog. But even then, like, what about joints when it comes to chiropractic? Is that a thing, like ball joints?
And there's been many cases that I've had to where, people are coming into me before because they've been told they need surgery on something, but they don't want to have surgery. So they're like, I'm willing to try this to see if this helps prevent surgery. And it's like a knee surgery, or even some people have needed like have been told they needed shoulder surgeries. And, you know, I always tell people up front, like, I don't know if I can fix you, but like, this isn't going to hurt. Like, let's just try kind of thing. And many times, like, they don't need to have surgery, both because they're no longer in pain, but also because, sometimes there does end up being like a joint on joint type of situation to where it's not because, you know, there's an overgrowth of your bone. It's more so just because there's a misalignment in your joints, to where now that we're opening up space through adjustments, your joints have more room to move and breathe.
I'm convinced I have very little, if any, cartilage left in either one of my knees. Again, we talk about the era I grew up in. I wore ankle weights daily, like throughout 7th, 8th, and 9th grade to try and be able to jump higher. And there was a movie called The Goat with Don Cheadle. And it's about this basketball player named Earl Amanda Goat, who's a real dude and lives, I think, in Yonkers, New York or something. But I used to love that movie because he always wore his ankle weights around. Are you familiar with this movie at all?
Yeah.
Oh, and he can jump on top of the backboard and I grab the change. So I used to wear ankle weights around all the time.
Just because you were convinced.
And he did it.
Help.
And he was jumping real high. When I was also doing like leg lifts, and like that was just my regular thing. And now, like 2 days before a storm comes in, I'm like, oh,
Feel it in your
it's
joints.
raining. It's going to rain soon.
You can sense it.
Yeah. So there's chiropractic care for that kind of a thing. It's not just wait it out until I need a new knee.
No, I'd highly recommend not doing that, actually. And to that point, like, I know a lot of people, when they get to that stage and start to feel those things, stop working out, stop moving their body because, you know, it's uncomfortable. They're starting to be in pain, when I'm a huge believer that movement is medicine. Our bodies were meant to move. And it's when we stop moving that it's actually hurting us more. So it's, chiropractic care is a component, but it's also teamwork. Like, how committed is, you know, that person to also helping themselves? Because there's only so much we can do.
Sure.
You know, if I'm working with someone and adjusting them in different ways and they're just sitting at home all day long, like, we're not going to get real results. You know, it's a both and. We both have to kind of work together to get legit results.
Well, I'm of that same mindset because I was having shoulder pain like a year ago. Did nothing. And then since I've been back in the gym on a regular basis, because now the muscles and ligaments around there are stronger. And so the pain was coming from being what I refer to as skinny fat at the time.
It's
Like,
a real thing.
you know, like I wasn't toned by any means, and I wasn't skinny, but I had that. I was starting to get that 40-something body when you don't do things, and I'm like, oh, this isn't
I need to not
how I want to
like
be
this.
presented. Someone brought up a good point to me, and they were like, why is it that women are the only ones that are supposed to take care of their bodies if they want to be in a relationship or be you know, attractive to the opposite sex?
Why don't guys do
And I was
that?
like, boom.
Yeah.
It hit me hard.
It's like a reality check.
yeah,
like,
you're right.
What am I doing?
Yeah. So, but back to the pregnancy thing. After pregnancy, right? There's one of the things that, again, unfamiliar with, so I'm only speaking to try and help inform others. Is postpartum is a thing, right? Now, when you talk about nervous system, this wasn't something I had planned to ask, so it's not like a gotcha moment, but it just kind of came into my brain. When you talk about the nervous system and stuff, I have to think that aligns with all of that, right?
Yeah,
So does that help with
postpartum specifically?
yeah, or mood in any way? Because
Yeah,
feel good kind of
Yeah.
you know resonates throughout, or what?
for sure. There's a huge hormonal shift that goes on from when you're pregnant to when now the baby is earthside. There's so much that goes on in your
What'd
body.
you call it? Earthside?
Earthside?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've
Is that
never
weird?
heard that. No, I've never heard it.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Yeah, there's a huge hormonal mood shift that goes on because, the baby's born, but in a way, the mom is born too. The mom, whether it's your first child or your third child, like, you're kind of birthing into a mom again in a way. So there's just huge hormonal shift that goes on. And in terms of the nervous system and related to that, we with chiropractic care, and because we are so nervous system based, we help ease that transition. Like, we can't prevent that hormonal shift. It needs
Sure.
to happen for multiple reasons. But it doesn't have to be as drastic as it is. And, just as a society, in the postpartum period, it's when women are almost like forgotten about. I just feel like there's so much care that goes on in the before baby is here period, that once baby is here, we kind of just,
It's all
they
about the
got
baby.
it. Yeah, like, focus is on the baby, but like, we kind of forget that, how's mom doing? Like,
And all
we need to
babies
check
are equally selfish, so they don't care.
at
Like,
all.
they're not worried about what mom's doing.
Exactly. So it's twofold for me. Like, I love seeing moms in the postpartum period. One, because they feel like they have someone to talk to. They have someone that's listening to them.
Okay.
A lot of times that's what it is. Like, they just don't want to feel alone in the journey. But also, we're helping their nervous system adapt and kind of transition back to where it was prior to the baby, prior to even being pregnant, in a smoother way. So it's not as drastic of a jump.
Does that come from some of that background in being a doula? Did I get it right?
Yeah, just
I keep wanting to say medulla.
because midwife,
Yeah.
doula, you wanted to combine the words.
And the
it
whole
sounds
thing, like with the brain, the medulla oblongata.
Oh, okay. That's valid.
But like if I was a doula, my slogan would be like, "Hey, ma doulas, album gotcha."
I'm not sure.
Medulla's album gotcha. Like, I got you covered.
Yeah, it's good. I would have never thought of that. It never would have crossed my mind.
Oh.
But that works. It works.
Mine works weird. It's not always great.
But yes, the doula background, again, is just education and giving the mom and the parents, both mom and dad, an opportunity to make informed choices in all ways throughout pregnancy, during the birth, in the postpartum period. I feel like there's just a lack of education and knowledge in the area overall, to where that's always my goal, is to simply just educate, so they're able to make decisions that they want to make.
And it's like a mind, body, spirit thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that I've certainly taken to recently is, like, if you're not all the way in line, you're not in line. And it's a mind, body, spirit thing. So I try and
100%.
work on each of those every day.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes in line with what you're doing, right? So are you, at your practice, when you see individuals, do you talk to them about these other aspects? It's not just like I come in and you're like, crack, crack, crack. See you later.
No, it's usually I run over in appointments just because I do want to have conversations with them. Like, yes, I want to know how they're feeling and all that kind of stuff, but I also, one, every patient of mine gets my personal contact information because I want them to feel like they can reach out to me about anything and everything. But I also want them to know, like, I'm here for them and here to support them in any way outside of just, adjusting their body and helping them feel good. Because I know it's going to come with it. But a lot of times, especially people who have been in pain for years, they just start to lose hope and start to, not even believe that what you're doing is working because of their mindset. So if their mindset isn't aligned with what we're actually doing, it's going to be hard to get them feeling better and feeling good. So I definitely get into a more personal connection with everyone that I care for, because that's where I see a lot of the healing happens.
Preventatively, is there at-home work that maybe you would recommend we all should be doing for generalized healthy longevity and movement?
Yeah. My number one recommendation always is movement. I'm not saying people need to go to the gym 5 times a week and lift weights and all that kind of stuff. But, if you have a sit-down job or work at a desk a lot or work from home a lot, move your body. Like, get outside, go for a walk,
Jumping jacks?
something. That's better than nothing. Yes, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. We've gotten so far away from, like, movement being medicine and our bodies just being made to move that
We're nomads,
is huge. Yeah.
Right? Like, our spines are supposed to be walking X amount of miles a day.
Yeah.
To not be, like, compressed.
Correct. Yeah. And we, we forget that. So honestly, I keep it really simple. That's why I say, like, move your body, whether it's, you're working at a stand-up desk and you're walking on a walking pad at the same time, or you just...
Our producer does that.
It works.
My business partner and buddy
it's
over there.
A real thing.
I remember the first time I Zoomed while he was like on a treadmill, and I'm like,
thought it was kind of weird.
Are you walking right now? He's like, yeah, I got a treadmill under my standing desk.
So smart. Killing two birds
awesome.
with one stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just recommend people move their body more than anything.
That's a great thing you brought up, is the office culture, right? So, it's been big since the 80s, really. But now I've been noticing these memes lately, and my friends and I send them back and forth about prawning. Have you heard about office prawning?
Yeah.
So like when you're like shaped like a prawn, because you're like this.
It's what people are like.
I notice I catch myself driving like this sometimes, and I'm like, well, I'm not racing. I can
I can relax.
sit back and relax a little bit.
It's not that serious.
What do we do about posture? Because I'm always afraid of having a dinosaur neck where I'm just like always like in this position.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, one, at our office we do take x-rays as long as you're not pregnant and you're not a baby, we do take x-rays on everyone because we do want to have a picture of everybody's spine prior to adjusting them. But it's interesting to see the difference between, I'd say, like 40 and younger versus like 50 and older, because of just what we have at our fingertips. Like 40 and younger, like cell phones have always been a thing, and working at computers is more common, and like
even when they're laying down, they're like this,
right? And constantly looking down at things, and like I'll see how we lack curves in our spine. Our spine should have a certain curve to it, but when we get to that 40 and younger specifically, like our spines are almost like straight because we are, one, maybe we're not moving our bodies as much as we should be, but we're also constantly in the same position for hours on end each day. Yeah. Versus like, the older population,
because like video games and stuff too.
Like. Yeah, it's just they grew up differently. They were outside more as kids. They weren't attached to a TV screen or a tablet, and it's playing a huge role in our posture, and our posture, depending, if we lack curves in our spine, that can just put so much stress and tension on certain parts of our spine, which again can eventually lead to pain. So like posture is huge. I always tell people, if you're going to be scrolling on your phone, like, I don't know, lay on your belly so you're forced to like look up at your phone or something, just like
80s teen bop style.
Yeah, like
just talk on the phone and like kick your legs behind you.
Change your posture, change your position. I tell people, if you're gonna sit and scroll, like put one arm under your armpit, and like your phone's gonna be eye level. Like you don't have to look down all the time. So simple things, but things that can make a huge difference in our posture.
You talk about generational posture. That's something that I am thinking about, because I often talk about how I'm trying to be like politically correct about it, but I find that people under 30, typically when they're in motion, don't really have a general direction. And that I come across a lot of this stuff, like especially the dudes, like when I come up to them, they'll be like,
crunched.
Well, they'll like hunch in, or they'll like get, like I'm like walking through them or something, and I'm like, just pick a direction and go with it, man. Like, what are you doing? And so I've noticed a lot of, like, my grandfather's era, everybody walked with a barrel chest and like out and just boom, boom, boom. Yeah. A little less with my generation, but still kind of like there's some swag, right? Swag, is the new thing. But we used to have the walk, 90s especially. I remember like the pimp walking with a certain gait in your stride was a big deal. Like we all strived that. We starched our pants and we walked a certain way. Are you old enough to remember starched pants?
No.
Oh, so this was a thing that was in like, I had a particular friend who was like, he could stand them up at football practice, and like we'd come back from practice and they'd still be standing there. You wanted to get them like a board.
That was like the goal.
Yeah, this was in like the late 90s. Wow. You starch your pants. And he had a whole method. He would like starch, iron, put a box fan on them, starch, iron, put a box fan on them.
Wouldn't that be like uncomfortable to wear?
Oh, it was fashion forward though. Who cares about comfort?
Just did it anyways.
It was like nothing goes better with a Tommy Hilfiger polo than a pair of nicely starched jeans.
Starched pants. Wow.
Yeah. Google that when we're done.
I'm gonna have to.
It's pretty hilarious.
I was born in '97, so that was probably like
Oh yeah,
when
you
I
were.
was born.
Yeah, we were running the streets in '97 as middle schoolers out there at the skating rinks
Cool
with our
kids.
starched pants on. And we were getting dropped off, but we were on the streets.
Right.
The mall, the skating rink, but it was all about starched pants. But the reason I say that is because I feel like I wonder if there's going to be like an evolution of like just people like being like all like hunchy and small.
Yeah, and it's sad because I don't know. I feel like I have hope that it'll change and it'll get better. But I mean, I see a lot of kids in my practice, and granted, you know, I've had a phone for years, but I also grew up at a time where we still played outside and, you know, weren't attached to video games and stuff like that. But now it's like so common for, I don't know, 4 or 5-year-old to like walk into the office with their tablet and, you know, like be attached to it the whole time and like not engage in conversation. And it's tough because, again, I have hope that it'll change, but it's just becoming so common now. And I just know what that's doing to their spine at such a important and critical time where they are still developing brain-wise, but also in their spine, you know. It's
You should work with the video game creators for VR. So my youngest son, he's big fisherman, probably 2-3 times a week.
Wow, that's
fishing.
Awesome.
And sports guy. Both my sons are sports guys. I was an outdoors kid. And so we're more of an outdoors family, but he has his VR that he plays. And there's some movement.
Yeah.
He gets sweaty playing it, which is weird to me. I'm like, dude, anytime if you come out and you're taking a break from your video game, I don't care if it's virtual reality or not, and you're sweating, you take a break.
Yeah.
Let's take a break, my guy.
Stop.
He'll be in there for like 30 minutes and he'll come out. I'm like, you weren't like this at basketball practice. What are you doing? So there's some, I don't know, because I can't do it without getting a headache, but it would be interesting to see like if you had specific movements. Yeah. If you had specific movements that you could tie into a game.
Yeah, to make it beneficial.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, because he's moving.
Clearly, if he's
in there moving.
Sweating,
he's getting hyped in there. I'm like, we should get this excited about other things. He does. I'm exaggerating a little bit. He does get excited about other things, but it's a lot for me because I remember like being upset at my Sega, but I never remember being like sweaty at my Sega.
Right. There was a difference.
I never stood up for my video rocker like
out of breath.
Yeah. This dude comes out winded.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly there's something to it. Like maybe it is more beneficial than. Can't you do like anything in that game though?
It depends on the game, but yeah, I mean, essentially.
Like you could.
And it's only getting exponentially better. Like
evolving.
I'm sure we're right around the corner from just being fully immersed in a room where you don't have to do.
It's just crazy.
Anything because you can already operate like drones and vehicles and stuff that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a scary future. And then everybody's going to be like in those eggs, like on Wall-E. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I just don't know why we
just a
need
bunch
all
of
this.
overweight prawns and eggs.
And we're making it easier to
be that way.
Yeah.
But I think there's also like the rebellion side, right? Because now to rebel, which is always popular when you're a teen, to rebel would be like, I'm not into electronics.
Mm-hmm. Polar opposite.
So maybe it's like shift.
Yeah, we need it.
I'm determined to be that iRobot Will Smith dude that's like still pulling my gas vehicle out of my garage. Like no matter how far along we get, I'm like, I'm keeping a gas
And
vehicle.
people say that. People say like electric vehicles are going to be it. Like gas vehicles won't even be, I don't want to say accepted, but like.
I think the big picture that everybody's missing there is that to create electricity, you need fossil fuels. And fossil fuels is renewable because it's from dead animals and plants. Things are always dying. Therefore, oil is always replenishing.
And like, kind of a tangent, but relevant. Like, I know some people who like had complete negative like symptoms from driving electric vehicles because our bodies are not meant to absorb that much energy. Like, when you think about it.
Oh, there's probably creates like some kind of electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Right?
In our body, and we're sitting in that car for, you know, who knows how long, how many hours a day, a week, a month.
Only about
whatever.
2 before you have to recharge it.
Which is like insane to me. And like some people literally like vision changes, nausea, like all these crazy symptoms because, you know, they just started driving in this vehicle and we already have so much
Surrounded by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere. You know, I always tell people, like, I refuse to talk on the phone with it close to my ear, which seems like dramatic, but like you're always on speakerphone, because that at my ear multiple times a day, like that's a lot. I don't need that to absorb that type of energy.
I remember in college, like being on my cell phone watching the microwave, like this close.
Yes.
Just challenging, just defying.
Yeah, just to see.
Yeah, that's a huge point. Like that could be a whole topic right there. I didn't even think about, because they have always talked about don't live next to power lines.
Yet we're doing that.
But climb into this battery.
Yeah, make it make sense.
Basically, here, drive this microwave.
Yeah.
Right. But don't live near power lines where it's ambient.
Contradicting.
Yeah, that's crazy. So how I usually like to end a show is I like to talk about something that I took away, and then let you kind of be thinking while I'm describing this about something that you would like to leave as a piece of advice.
Yeah.
Or maybe something that affected you. It doesn't have to be chiropractic related. It could be something profound that you learned as a young person and it's carried you through. But I would say what I took away from here is that movement is key and preventative. Because I often don't think of it in that. I think about the longevity, but I don't think about it as a way to continue to be able to carry the groceries up the stairs by just staying active.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I pictured my grandmother and my grandfather was born 6 hours apart, so they're the same age. My grandfather passed several years ago. My grandmother will be 92 this April.
That's amazing.
And she's still sharp as a tack. Her mobility's not what it used to be, but
yeah.
it's not. She's not in a wheelchair. She's still using a cane, walker sometimes. And she's always done movement, like every day, even if she had to walk laps around the house. She gets up and she plays mahjong or solitaire. She's always active in the community and talking to people. And it shows, because my grandfather was not.
Yeah.
And his health declined rapidly.
Right.
And she's
still
92. And I can call her at like 10 p.m. and be like, hey, what was that family down the street?
She'll know exactly what you're
she'll
talking
be like,
about.
oh, the such and suches? And I'm like, yeah, sharp as a tack.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's what I took away, is to stay active no matter what that activity is. Do something movement-based every day.
Yeah. Yeah, something that we say a lot in our practice is we don't want, like, I wish I would have known to be anybody's story. Like, life is you're meant to thrive through life, not just merely survive. And you shouldn't accept functioning at 70% of your absolute best. Like, you can always feel better, be better, and just overall, there's so many little things that you can do proactively to get there, to just, again, thrive through life. And our goal at Excelsior is really to just make sure you can express 100% of your God-given potential, because everyone has the innate ability to heal, and we just want to help you get there.
Excellent. So where can people watching and listening find you if they want to get your services?
So I practice at Excelsior Family Chiropractic. We are located in Chesterfield, off of Chesterfield Airport Road in the Valley. I guess my social media, I'm mostly on Instagram at the Chiro Doula. Yeah.
Chiro Doula. All right. Dr. Marlee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really fun.
Appreciate it.